All right, guys, welcome back to The Art of Show. This week, we're hanging out with the children's book illustrator whose journey to his first book being published involved him going through unemployment checks.
Welcome to The Art of Show, where we feature the people who are creating amazing stories for kids. Join us as we chat with children's book illustrators and authors, storyboardists, animators, and more. Now, their art might be for kids, but aren't we all just kids at heart? Here's your host, Brandon.
All right, guys, welcome back to The Art of Show. Hope you guys are having a great June and you're rolling into the summer. This week, we're hanging out with an awesome illustrator. His name is Edward Taylor, and he actually has 3 books coming out this year, including his very first book, Race, which is coming out on July 4th. All right, and you guys can actually win that book if you guys head over to www.brandoncullum.com/32, and you can enter to win a copy, hardback copy that we will send over to you guys. That's going to be running for about a week after this show's released, so make sure and head over there to check that out. But yeah, this week we're hanging out with Edward. Edward's a lot of fun to chat with. He has a fun journey towards Kids Lit. It took him through video games. Actually took him through unemployment. And he has a lot of cool stories on just how he got into the industry. Also, I actually came across his work because of Josh Funk, who we've also had on the podcast as an author a few episodes back. And he is collaborating with him on a book coming out called Not Jack and the Beanstalk, which is going to be out a little bit later this year. So Edward has a lot of great tips if you guys are illustrators, including how you can use art competitions like Inktober or Animal Alphabets online, and how you can just improve your skills. So without further ado, let's dive into our interview with Edward. Well, guys, welcome back to The Art of Show. We're hanging out with Edward today, who is, you're calling in from Texas, is that right?
Yeah, I live in the Dallas, Texas area.
Okay, in Dallas, Texas. And who is a character designer as well as children's book illustrator. And I actually came across your work because of your project with Josh Funk, who I had on the podcast, I guess late last year. And he was like, man, you need to check out his stuff. And he started, I think, with your, you were drawing, because you do these like challenges, or like you went through the alphabet, and I forget the one that you were on at that point. He's like, his stuff is so cool.
I was doing quite a few, because I try to do stuff on the side so that way I'm not just doing client work.
Yeah.
And so it kind of just like releases me from the pressures of having to do all of the stuff that's not really my stuff. But I was doing Animal Alphabets, which is a Twitter group. Yeah, it was a Twitter group. I think right now they're doing animals that are close to extinction.
Really?
So, okay. And then, but at the time, I think he was talking about, I was doing mythical creatures, and then we just did fairy tales.
Gotcha. That's cool. That's real cool.
Well, and then there was another group too that I worked on with a couple of their artist friends, and it was the Harry Potter character design challenge. So that was another one I was doing too. Yeah,
you had like a really cool Hagrid. Is that right?
Yeah.
There's like that's I remember that one. I was like, that one's really cool. So
hey.
well, sweet. Well, I'd love to kind of jump into your story. And was art something that you kind of started with as a kid? Were you just one of those that always had like a pencil in their hand?
You know, it's funny because I listened to a lot of the other podcast artists, and I didn't really realize that I wanted to be an artist until one day my kindergarten teacher called my mom to come in for a parent-teacher conference. And my mom, I was really talkative as a kid, and I used to get in trouble for talking. And so my mom thought it was because of that. But every time a classmate had a birthday, we would all draw a picture for them, and we would put it in a little book, and they would give it to that classmate during their birthday. And every time that we would do that, I always tried to do something really cool for them.
Yeah.
And so the teacher started noticing, and I didn't really think anything of it. No one in my family is an artist. I had no training as an artist at all. And so she called her in and told her that he's got a really good he has a real talent that you need to probably, foster more. But again, my mom's from the Philippines, and so she wasn't used to, pushing me for art, I guess, because it's not normal for her or anyone in her family. And so she just bought me crayons. And, whenever she would go to work, she'd bring home like scrap pieces of paper, and that's what I would draw on. And also, when I would run out of paper, I would end up writing on the walls, which I got in trouble for a lot. But yeah, that's how I found out that, what my mom told me is that when she realized that I was an artistic kid.
Gotcha.
So.
That's cool. That's real cool. Was there something you kind of gravitated towards? Like, was it like superheroes or dinosaurs or just like kind of the normal kid stuff?
It was a little everything.
Okay.
Yeah, I drew a lot of stuff. Like I talked to my mom about it before. She was like, I would draw a lot of cartoon characters because I would watch TV.
Yeah.
During that time, Disney Channel was on cable, and so she would have Disney Channel playing, PBS. So she would just watch me, and I would just be drawing stuff that I would see on TV, or we would go outside, and I would draw stuff I would see. So there really wasn't any main thing that I would draw.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's cool. So when did you ever have a point where like art was like, this is like a career or could be a career for you?
Yeah. Well, when I turned like 12, my dad wanted me to have a hobby. And so, we went through all the gambit collecting baseball cards, basketball cards. And finally, one day we went to a comic book store. And my dad's not a comic book reader either. So we just went in there because he wanted to collect baseball cards. And so we went in there and started looking at the comic books. And during the 90s, the X-Men had come out with their Saturday morning cartoons. So I realized that they had a comic book for the series. So I started buying X-Men comic books with my allowance money. And then from there, I started figuring that maybe I could become a comic book artist.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Although my style is not at all
Yeah.
not at all comic book style. So it's kind of funny. But yeah, I would try to copy pages from the comic books, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I would buy duplicates of comic books and I would cut them and put them on my wall.
Oh, cool.
So,
yeah, that's awesome. Now I had Cale Atkinson on, I guess, a few weeks back, and he had a kid's book come out with Guardians of the Galaxy.
I know, I saw Cale's. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I was like, that's super cartoony, and it was superheroes. So you see to get into that world. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too, because when I got to high school, my freshman year, I was living in Syracuse at the time, Syracuse, New York, because my dad's from there.
Oh, cool.
And so I was in an art class, and the art teacher had some friends that worked for Image Comics, and they were inkers. So she asked them to come into the classroom to kind of give critiques on, individual students' work and stuff like that. And she asked me to bring my stuff, so I brought some, and they told me that to work on my anatomy and some advice they gave me. I remember they told me to study female anatomy from porn magazines.
Wow.
It was pretty funny. And then I remember sitting at the dining table with my grandparents and my mom and my brother. And they asked me how was the meet with this. And I told them, I was like, well, they told me that I need to start collecting porn magazines so I could learn with anatomy. And my grandparents, it was hilarious. And my grandpa was like, oh, sure. And my grandma was like,
yeah,
she couldn't believe that I would even say that. But it was pretty funny. But, classes, classic classes with, actual models is probably the best bet.
Yeah. So did you go to school then, or did you go to college for art? Is that right?
Yeah, well, it's funny. So in high school, I did the AP art program, so I went through all of that.
Okay.
And then at the same time, I was also in the AP chemistry program in high school. So when I went to college, I thought that I was going to become a chemical engineer. And so at that time, my dad was stationed in Ingleside, Texas. So we lived in Gregory, Portland, Texas. And so I started interning at a lot of the chemical plants that are in that area. There's DuPont, OxyChem, all those plants that were over there. And I had interned there my senior year. And so I thought going into college, I'd just do chemical engineering. And then to pay for school, I would double major in art because I was getting art scholarships.
Oh, cool.
So that's what I was doing. I was double majoring, and then finally I had to stop doing the chemistry because the workload was so intense that it was starting to affect the artwork, and I was getting, scholarships through the art program, and so I had to kind of make a decision. And so I chose art.
That's cool. That's crazy because you usually don't hear I was doing art to pay the bills almost. Like it's like the flip. It's like I went into engineering to make the money.
Engineering is where the money was.
Yeah.
And then I ended up, sticking with art. And to be honest too, I was happier doing art, and so that's probably why I stuck with it. Chemistry is great, it's fun, but I had more fun and I felt more fulfilled doing artwork. And so I kind of stuck with that.
That's cool. Was there a project in college that stands out to you now that you're real proud of?
Oh goodness. Well, I probably, well, what I'm doing now wasn't what I was going to school for my undergrad.
Okay.
I was doing drawing and painting. So nothing really happened in my undergrad. I went through the motions but it wasn't until I went to grad school where I realized you can actually go to school for games and animation.
Oh, cool.
And so I went to the University of Texas in Dallas in the ATech program over there, Arts and Technology. And I went in because I had a friend working at Gearbox doing video games. And he had me in one day and kind of see what he was doing. He was a texture artist. He was like, you could totally do this. You just learn the programs and then I can help you get a job.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I download the program and I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. It's like, I need to go to school. So UTD actually offered programs in Maya and all of that stuff. So that's why I ended up going to grad school for it. But it's funny because I went in and I talked to my counselor and he was like, you went in for games, but you may end up doing something completely different. And so he said that to me. I was like, yeah, no, I'm going to stick with games. And he was like, okay. And then I ended up graduating, focusing in animation. And so it was kind of, I don't know.
That's cool. Now, did you wind up working there once you got out of college?
Yeah. So after I was working also as a TA when I was in grad school.
Okay.
So I was already teaching a couple classes. I was teaching intro to modeling and texturing. And then after I graduated, they asked me to stay on. So I kept teaching the intro classes for modeling and texturing. And then they added me in to do lighting and compositing, which I'm okay at. But at the time, it'd been like months since I had done anything in lighting compositing. So I felt bad for my students that first semester because I was like fumbling through. A lot of them knew more than I did, but it's because they were, doing stuff beforehand, and it was a refresher course.
Yeah.
But yeah, after I stopped teaching, I got a job, my first studio job for a commercial studio in Dallas.
Okay, that's cool.
That's kind of where I discovered where I was going with character design and stuff.
Yeah, and what was it about characters that drew? Did you know it was the character even when you were doing figure drawing back in your undergrad? Like, I don't want to do layout, I don't want to do backgrounds.
It was interesting because during my my final grad project, my advisors told me that they wanted me to do an animated short, so I would have to have a team of people working with me, but I had to develop the short myself.
Okay.
So I learned from that process that I love the biz dev part, like creating the characters, the environments, storyboards, all of that stuff was stuff that I really enjoyed doing. And so through that process, I found out that's where I needed to go with my career.
Gotcha.
Although UTD didn't offer character design. So then after I graduated, I was more of a 3D generalist.
Okay.
Not a character designer. So I had to go after I finished with my grad program. I ended up taking online classes at CGMA.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's like a long process.
No, but it's neat because you've had
where I am.
Yeah, you've had like education in a bunch of different areas. What was it like comparing like the in-classroom experience and even when you were teaching to doing stuff that was strictly online through CGMA?
It's kind of hard because the classes I was taking in grad school were so technical because we were learning programs. I think it was important for me to be there because I'm one of those learners. I learn from seeing and doing.
Gotcha.
So I would have to be in the classroom doing it. But with CGMA online classes, it's pretty simple. You watch a video, you talk to the professor, you do the project, he gives you feedback. You learn from that on the next project, make sure you don't repeat the same mistakes. So I don't know. It seemed to me easier and it clicked, better for me doing the online classes, which if I had known prior, I probably would have just gone straight into online classes.
Yeah.
But,
now was it, now was it like was it like a character design like track or was there like a,
yeah. There's several different ones. For me, I just wanted to take a few classes that I thought would help me just get better. I didn't want to go through the whole gambit of, intro to this. And so I started taking classes on CGMA that I thought would help me focus straight into getting character design work.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, I took them with Nate Ragg, who was an artist, and I'm not sure if he's still with DreamWorks or not. I think he is. But he was a character designer on Ratatouille's closing credits.
Oh, cool.
If you remember that.
Yeah.
So he was teaching 3 different level classes. So I just stuck with him through that. I took one with Brett Bean. I took some painting classes too on there too. So because I wasn't versed well in digital painting, so it was something I had to learn.
Gotcha.
Also through the teaching.
Yeah. That's cool. So it sounds like you're a foot in the video game world. You're doing some I'm imagining you're doing like freelance stuff at the same time. How did you get into the kidlit world?
So my first studio job, the commercial studio that I was working at.
Okay.
So after a while, we got to a point where, they weren't getting enough work, so they had to end up letting go a bunch of the artists. And I was the only concept storyboard artist on staff, and I was considered a luxury.
Gotcha.
Luxury staff member. And so I was one of the ones to let go, but they let go a bunch of other people also. So, but at the time, I'd never been unemployed. I'd never lost a job before. And so I was kind of like, what do I do now? So I started collecting unemployment while I was trying to find my next gig. And during that process, I don't know, what state do you live in? Do you live in
Georgia?
Yeah. I don't know if Georgia is similar to Texas, but in Texas, to collect unemployment, you have to submit every week 5 places that you've physically applied to.
Huh. Okay.
So I started running out of studios because all the studios in the area weren't hiring. I went on interviews, and every interview I went into, they were like, well, we're not looking, but whenever something comes up, we'll definitely let you know. And I was like, okay. So nothing was coming. I had a little bit of freelance work trickling in, but nothing that was going to be stable. So
Gotcha.
At the point, I finished through the list of all the studios that I could possibly apply to. And then I had to go and visit the caseworker for my unemployment. And she told me, because she's never had anyone like me before. And so she was like, so let's figure out other ways that you could use your skills. And I was like, okay. She goes, have you ever thought of doing illustration work? And I was like, well, I don't know anyone who's done that. I don't know how to even get started. And she was like, well, just go online and start looking and seeing if there's places you can apply to, because then you can use that for your unemployment. So, okay. So every week I would find at least 5 agencies, illustration agencies, and I would apply to them. So I would go online, look up their website, see if I would be a good fit, and then look at what their criteria was, and I would submit my illustration pieces. And so I did that for, I think for 3 months.
Wow.
So it starts to rack up. You
Yeah.
start finding, there's a lot of agencies out there. And a lot of people who contact me now ask me, how do I find them? I was like, Google.
Yeah.
They're out there. You just have to look for them. And at the time, I didn't know that there was the societies for illustrators. So I was completely going blind.
Yeah.
And at that time, I think within the second month of the 3 months that I was applying places, I got contacted by 2 different agencies. I actually got 5 responses. 3 of them declined. And then 2 of them were actually interested. And so that was my current agents right now, the Bright Group, and Astound Us. They were the 2 agencies that actually were interested. And so when it came down to it, I had to kind of pick and choose between the 2. So I kind of looked at their contracts to see which one was the better deal. And I felt like Bright would probably be the best for me. So I went ahead and went with them. And that started, my career in illustration. I didn't go to school for it.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know I'd never imagined that I would be illustrating children's books, and then realizing how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It is actually quite a fun job to be able to be at home working on a children's book, because I never imagined it would happen.
Yeah.
It's like how this weird journey, I just never imagined where I would be right now.
So your style then, so I guess the pieces that you're submitting in your portfolio, like were they a lot different than like some of the artwork we're seeing now? for the books that are coming out this year, or kind of how's that evolved?
Well, yeah, it had, well, as you know, a lot of artist styles evolve.
Yeah.
So from the time that I was taken in 2 years ago by Bright, I think I have changed a bit in my style, but I work in different fields. So I work on feature movies, and I work in television and illustration. They all kind of are the same. There's slightly different things that you have to pay attention to for each one, but illustration tends to go on a different, it kind of goes illustration, TV, then feature for me. And so the levels of detail.
Okay.
But for me, I kind of teeter between the line of TV and illustration. And I think a lot of publishers actually like that.
Yeah.
Because there's kind of a bit of a flexibility, because what happens if the book ends up becoming a TV series? Yeah. Which a lot of now books are becoming more of that.
Right.
It translates pretty simply to that as well. So
it'd be hard to turn like a beautiful watercolor painting in like traditional kids books, to TV. That's cool.
Yeah. So that's what I've been told by art directors, why they chose me for projects and stuff. So
really, that's cool. So all right, so you sign on with the Bright Group. So I guess in 2015, you say it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. When did the first kind of project come across?
The first one, within a month, I got my first job, and that was with Sue Douglas Fleece for Race.
Okay, sweet.
That was my first book, and so it was quite a bit of learning, because I've never done layout. I've never, I kind of treat it the same way I do character designs, because you go through a rough phase, and then you go through a tight phase, color pass, and then final. So it's pretty much, to me, I kind of approached it the same way you would for animation. It was, to me, everything's like a storyboard. So each page in the story is kind of like a frame that you're working on a storyboard. Yeah. So I kind of approached it like that, because it's pretty similar, I guess, in that aspect, or for me at least, I made it relatable. But yeah, it was a learning experience. It was fun. But yeah, I learned a lot for the first book.
That's cool. That's real cool. Yeah. What were some of those lessons you learned, I guess, in transitioning? You've got, there are 2 more that are coming out this year. And then are there some other projects that you're working on currently in addition to that?
Well, right now I freelance at the same time as I'm working on books. So I'm currently freelancing for DreamWorks TV, Nick Jr., and also working on a feature film with Out of Order Studios that's based out of Fort Worth, Texas. Okay, cool. But yeah, I freelance on the side. So whenever I'm not working on freelance, I'm working on the children's book stuff. Because I have to be able to pay my bills. Right. The freelance, is a consistent paycheck. Yeah. Whereas the books, it's a more longer process, and you don't get paid right away. It's a bit of a lag time in the payment process. So
that's cool. Yeah. So then, what was I guess the second book you started working on?
That one was with Josh. Okay. Josh Funk. That was It's Not Jack and a Beanstalk, and that one was a lot of fun. It's just like, because I always try to get to know the author that I'm working on with the book. Like, as soon as I got the deal with Race, I immediately contacted Sue on Facebook, and we became friends on Facebook. So whenever I had any questions, I can contact the author and kind of get their thoughts. That's cool. Because I would rather I get their feedback first, than instead of doing it myself and then find out that that's not what any of the people were intending. Does that make sense? Yeah, that totally makes sense. Then have to redo it. I'm trying to be economical with my time. Yeah. So if I know what they're envisioning, I can kind of apply it to what I'm thinking, so that way it kind of makes both of us happy. So with Josh, though, Josh was a lot of fun, because we would, I would ask him questions about the characters. There's a cow, Bessie, that's in there, then Jack's best friend. And in the story, it doesn't say whatever happens to Bessie after she's been sold for the magic beans. And so I'm like, okay, well, I want to know what happens to Bessie. There has to be like some sort of closure. And so towards the end, you'll find out at the end of the book. So I'm not going to ruin it. But, stuff like that, trying to get a backstory for some of the characters. Gotcha. Or if he has intended for spin-off books, or like he has the sequels with his French Toast. Was it Sir French Toast? What's his name of it? Lady Pancake. French Toast, yeah. So in case we ever do sequels, there are other characters within this world besides just the main characters that we could probably even go with in story wise. So there's a lot of fairy tale characters that I put in there myself. We designed some characters for future spin-offs. I'm not going to say who they are that's in the book.
Yeah.
So for those of you listening, buy the book and see who's in it. So, we never know what will end up with Josh writing another, kind of a side story to some of these characters that I put in there.
That's cool.
And I also hidden some characters too, so you have to kind of pay attention to each page to see where I've placed and hidden characters.
Yeah, that's awesome. I always found it kind of weird, especially in the kids book world, where like the authors and illustrators, there's like a divide in the middle. But then like, especially when you're coming from video games to TV and film, like it's super collaborative. So I was like, why would you not want to know from the guy who made the story, like what he was thinking?
Yeah, I always feel like it's important. I need to know, I get to know the author because they wrote this story, so they must care about it a lot.
Yeah.
For someone else to take it on and put their spin on it. And I don't want to take it and just do whatever I want. I want to also get their feedback and see what their thoughts are also. With the current book that I'm wrapping up now, it's what's it called? Toy Academy.
Okay. With
Brian Lynch. Brian Lynch is a writer for some feature films like The Minions, Despicable Me. The reason why I really took the projects because he worked on, I'm a big Buffy fan.
Okay, yeah.
He worked on the Spy comic books.
Okay.
And so I was like, oh gosh, I have to work with him because I was like, I loved movies that he worked on, but I was like, he wrote Spike, the comic book, and I was like, I have to work on this with him.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool. With him, there was a lot of feedback. We would go back and forth. I would ask him for references of toys, because a lot of the stuff that we're talking about are toys, referencing toys from the 80s.
Oh, cool.
And I grew up in the 80s, so I kind of know some of them, but he may have experienced other toys that I hadn't when I was a kid, so a lot of it was just trying to get references, ideas for the characters and stuff like that too. So
that's fun.
Yeah.
That's cool. Now I'm seeing that one has already got series number 1 on it. So are there more coming down the pipe?
Yeah, we have it. I think there's supposed to be a total of 4 that we know of that's going to come out. Right now, I'm wrapping up book 1, and I have, I think, a month of a break, and then I start the second book.
Okay, cool. Real cool.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I definitely want to ask you before we kind of wrap up is what
my goodness.
Yeah, it's already been close to 30 minutes.
I didn't realize.
Yeah. Is your the challenges that you do and how that has influenced your artwork? Because I had Jake Parker on to talk about Inktober,
which helps to do that too.
Yeah, which is a ton of fun. And I had Tony Bank or Tony for which I saw you were doing that as well.
I tried. I stopped at 3.
You're like, I can't do it anymore. Yeah, but maybe talk a little bit about the ones that you've done and just how, like, if folks are interested in doing those type of challenges, like how to get involved in and what you've kind of learned through it.
Well, I've done a few challenges, and the one that really kind of started everything, what is it? Sketch dailies. I don't know if you remember those. Yeah, that kind of pretty much started my focus into to really learn character design on my own, because every day was a new prompt, and so it was a lot of research on characters I had no idea about. So it was kind of teaching you to go through the process and trusting the process of you doing your research, doing your rough sketches, and then finding the sketch that works and then finalizing it. But it's all done in a day, so it was a lot of work for one illustration to do in a day, which I was doing consistently for a while, and then I had to stop because I just needed to focus on my own personal stuff.
Yeah.
But that kind of drove me to want to learn things outside of what I'm normally familiar with. Same thing with animal alphabets. A lot of the characters that they bring up, I had no idea. So I kind of figured that these challenges are going to open me up to other ideas and other stories and other cultures that I probably wouldn't research on my own if I were going to do my own personal stuff for my portfolio. So it kind of, broadened my horizons, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah, that's cool.
Also, it's good to do stuff outside that you're not having to come up. I like, it's funny. I would rather not have to come up with stuff and people just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
So other thing too, because everyone's always like, what am I going to do next? What's this? What am I going to work on? Whereas if you have a challenge, okay, every week you have to do this and you're kind of committed to it. So it's kind of like homework, I guess.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Was there a series, or was there a drawing that surprised you, or an illustration, not a drawing, but an illustration that surprised you through the ones that you've done? You're like, oh, this is like...
I think probably the animal alphabets, the mythical creatures.
Okay.
A lot of them, I'm not comfortable with horses.
Okay.
And so I try to draw horses as much as I can because I'm not comfortable with horses. And then there was the unicorn that we ended up doing for the letter U.
Okay.
And I had a lot of fun with that because I'd never draw unicorns. I'm not into the cutesy kind of things, but I was surprised how well it turned out. So, and I've had several people ask me to sell prints of it because they loved it so much. And I was like, okay, I guess maybe I can draw horses. And well, in terms of unicorns, I guess.
Yeah. So did you turn some of those? I know you've sold your full of character books at expos. Is that where a lot of that came from during those?
Oh, well, they're included in my art book. So
a
lot of a lot of the art book stuff that I have in there are stuff that I've done for challenges that I've put in there, along with some, personal illustrations that I've done for either my agents or for just myself.
That's cool. That's real cool.
Yeah.
Well, then kind of the last thing before we totally wrap up, when you are looking at other folks' character and other folks' artwork, and maybe the technical stuff is taken care of, like what pops out to you, and like when are you like, man, that's really good?
If the illustration or the work gives me an emotion, like I've joked with friends about this with movies and even artwork. If I'm moved, either I'm angry or if I'm sad or it makes me cry. I love stuff that can make me cry.
Yeah.
And so, I'm always drawn to stuff like that. And so, like right now, I think one of my favorite books that I have is what's it called? Ghost.
Okay.
Have you heard
of
Ghost?
Oh, Ghost with
It's written by Blaze Hemingway and Jesse Refskin.
Okay.
Refskin.
I don't think I've heard of that one.
But it has Chris Sasaki and Jeff Turley who illustrate the book. And each one is chilling. Like, the illustrations are beautiful. They're not gory in any way,
right,
but it gives you that sense of, creepiness. And that one's one of my favorite books right now. Even I'll go through it and I'll read the books, but a lot of it I'm just like looking at the pictures because you can tell so much from just the illustrations.
That's cool.
But yeah.
Oh, was that a Kickstarter? Is that that where it came from?
So.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, those are really neat. That's real cool.
Yeah, it's beautiful work, and the stories are fantastic.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so that's
Well, cool. Well, we know you got some books coming out, and you're putting a lot of artwork out there. If folks want to follow along with your books as well as the projects you got going, any good places to direct them towards?
Yes. There's my website. It's www.edwardiantaylor.com, all one word. Also, you can find me on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram at Edward Ian Taylor.
Cool. Sounds good. And then the releases, you've got... sorry, I just had it pulled up. But you've got Race coming out on July 4th. And this episode is going out actually tomorrow. So this one will be real quick, yeah. And then you've got It's Not Jack and the Beanstalk, September 19th. And then Toy Academy, Some Assembly Required, #1 on January 30th, 2018. That's cool, man. Well, I appreciate your time. It was a blast chatting with you.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.